Okay, so this video is going to be about John Doherty's reading of 52 from Song of Myself by Walt Whitman. So this poem is a little more complicated than the last poem that part 50 that he read, and so you can see where as he introduces in his video, it's a little more difficult to understand. It's gonna, you have to really it's a challenge to grasp it. And you read through and he's like, oh, it's like these kind of words I don't understand. There's kind of maybe a little more of the 1800s vernacular in there, but you can tell, like, throughout his reading, you can just tell how passionate he is about this poem and how he did put in that time and effort to reach this challenge of really grasping this poem. And he did so because, as you can see and hear in his reading, there are those lines that really caught him, and it made him fall in love with the poem and do that work and complete that challenge of understanding the poem. And I guess I'll go through this kind of line by line. So he starts, "The spotted hawk swoops by and accuses me. He complains of my gab and my loitering." And even though it's just a regular line, you can even just the way he reads it, he complains of my gab and my loitering. You can just tell he really enjoys that line. And the next line, it's one of my favorites that of his reading is, "I too am not a bit tamed. I too am untranslatable." And you can just tell from the way that he reads it, he feels those things about himself, or he'd like to feel those things about himself. He's this construction worker, but he wants to feel, a little wild, or, he's not a bit tamed, he's untranslatable. He wants to feel these things that this Walt Whitman is describing, and I really like that. You can really see his passion and hear his passion as he reads this, and again, it makes the poem come to life when you are listening to his reading of it. You might read it, "Oh, I'm not a bit tamed, I'm untranslatable," but the way he reads it, you could tell there's meaning to it, and there's a passion there, and there's some depth to these lines that are really valuable to him, and they make it so that you want them to be valuable to you too. And then, "I sound my barbaric yop." I just like the way his Boston accent reads that barbaric yop. It makes, it's already a good sound in the poem itself, but his voice and passion bring that to life. It's the same with the word scud. I just like these words in the poem itself, but also his reading of it makes it enjoyable. Oh, and so, again, even though this next line, "It flings my likeness after the rest and true as any on the shadowed wilds," it's wordy, it's complicated, it's difficult to understand, but just his passion for the poem really comes through because he just says these so smoothly, like it's saying, "I went to work today. It flings my likeness after the rest and true as any on the shadowed wilds." I've read through this poem several times now, and I've watched this video a lot, so I can say this, but at first, if you're just first reading this, again, you're going to trip up on this, and as true as any, and you can see his passion as he smoothly just reads this and just goes through it. And "it coaxes me to the vapor and the dusk." Again, he says this with, like, a strong conviction, and how much he just, again, this is one of those lines that really caught him, as he said, and it makes you, like, stand back and catch them yourself. It coaxes me to the vapor and the dusk. And he says it, again, with the conviction. He's, like, a good reader of this poem, and probably because he just loves this poem so much. "I depart as air." You can just tell from hearing him, he loves that line. He loves that. "I depart as air." And again, his Boston accent sounds good. And so, "I shake my white locks at the runaway sun. I fuse my flesh in eddies and drift in lacy jags." See, you can tell, he's getting, why he would get confused and trip up over these lines. But again, he reads them so smoothly. He did go through that, the effort and the challenge to grasp this poem. And "I bequeath myself to the dirt to grow from the grass I love. If you want me again, look for me under your boot soles." I think, even though we kind of said in the beginning, like, okay, I'm a construction worker, that's not why I love this poem, but obviously this poem has a personal relevance to him, as he loves working outdoors, and that he works in his boot soles, and he loves the dirt and the grass he loves. So you can tell, again, this is just like something he feels passionately about, and that comes across in his reading of the poem, and it makes for a great poetry reading. And then This last part, again, is one of my favorites from this video. He stops reading from the poem itself, and he looks up at the camera, and he has this part memorized. And this is the part he had said in the beginning. It was inspiring, and it spoke to him, and it made him see things in life that he wouldn't have normally seen. And he just has this part memorized. He's read this poem so often, and he's read it aloud, and he's probably prepared for this the video he's doing. But you can just tell how much he loves it, and the way he just looks up, and he has this like glimmer of like, this is so great. As he reads these lines, but I shall be good health to you nevertheless, and filter and fiber your blood, and failing to fetch me at first, keeping courage. So, and the alliteration in this poem is already good enough, but the way he reads it and the passionate conviction he brings to these lines, like, really make that stand out as part of the poem. And really help, like, reiterate that meaning. Keeping courage, like, I stopped somewhere waiting for you. Like, he feels these things, and he feels strongly about them, and he loves them, and they bring this message in the poem to life. And it almost, like, gives me tingles to see how much he loves these lines, and how he reads them with love, and how he presents these messages. They did inspire him, and it makes you want to be inspired by this poem yourself. Like, I keep saying, if I had read this in high school, if I had read this a couple years ago, just, oh, okay, Walt Whitman, something about the sounds of poetry really does bring it to life, and his particular passion for this poem bring it to life and really help reiterate the meaning that Walt Whitman was originally trying to express, and it gives it this John Doherty's personal stance on it, and it just brings the poem to life, I guess. So you do get inspired by just listening to the sounds of this poem.